Welcome to the latest edition of the Cranky Curmudgeon's Corner. My name is Paul Thomas, and this evening we are going to be talking about the two-party system. Joining us is a couple newbies, Ron Jenkins, Lisa Boyles, and Daniel Thomas. There have been third-party movements throughout our history. The Republican Party actually started as a third party in 1856. Anybody know who the presidential candidate of the Republican Party in 1856 was? All right, I'll tell you, John C. Fremont. That was until the Whigs dissolved by 1860. Other examples include the Progressives and the Know-Nothings, whose ideological agenda actually made their way into actual legislation, such as women's suffrage, the primaries, direct election of senators by the Progressives, and Jim Crow and immigration restrictions by the Know-Nothings. Today, we have the Green Party, whose main platform of environmental protection and addressing climate change has pretty much become the issue the Democrats, excluding Joe Manchin, seem to embrace.
Don't forget Christian Cinema.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for including that. Do you feel that the Green Party has had any influence on the Democrats embracing this issue, or is the Green Party basically irrelevant at this time to that particular issue of addressing climate change? Lisa, what do you think?
Well, I've gotten kind of confused with that because, the ideologies have changed a little bit since the beginning of the Green Party. And so I'm going to listen a little bit more because I'm curious to hear what Dan has to say and Ronnie, because initially it was a clear agenda. And now after those two, I don't know what, I'm really confused as to what does it stand for? What direction? Is it is it broken up? I don't know. Can someone answer that for me?
Yeah, we're going to come back to you, Lisa, after those two guys weigh in. Dan, what do you think about the Green Party's influence on the Democrats taking on the climate change issue?
I think that the Green Party was useful in leading the way for the Democrats to move in this direction. And I think that the Green Party is also irrelevant because they have no actual capital amongst the Democratic voters. What they have done is convinced us that with the help of scientists, which we all like following the science, at least we say that we do over here on the left, what they have done is convinced us and reminded us and worked very hard to make sure we all understand that this is an existential crisis, and don't have children or grandchildren if you don't care about this, because you will watch them die horribly. Now, what's happened is it's been turned over to the people who are in power in that two-party system. So one party has picked up that banner, but we're a real big tent, and someone like, I don't know, His Holiness Prime Minister Manchin, blessed be his name, doesn't care about it at all, or he thinks that the cost to his constituents will be too high, because we're not gonna just run out of coal at any point or something. There's more fossils, I guess, that we just haven't found in his state. I don't really pretend to understand his thinking there, but it is both. They trailblazed, but they also can't get a congressman elected. They can't get mayors elected. They don't have the infrastructure to become a political force of their own. So now their pet issue, which is a big one, and we're all going to die if we don't acknowledge it, has to be handed over to people who agree with them, but also have other concerns. Like the Green people don't have any, they don't have the economic plan. They don't have the health plans. They have the one issue, as far as I am aware. So they they can't get very far. I mean, we all saw Jill Stein's campaign, and was that her name, Jill Stein?
I think
Yes,
it was.
yes.
It got a little weird.
Yeah, we saw the nice crazy lady in 2016, and nobody even pretended to take her or the libertarian candidate seriously because they weren't serious people. They each had one thing that they cared about. Her was the environment, him was marijuana legalization. They had no other issues, they had no other ideas. Their focus was way too narrow. And if you asked either of them to speak about literally anything else, they completely embarrassed themselves. So they had to hand over, or their parties and their ideology had to be handed over to a bigger tent where people were actually in authority and had more information about other things.
So it was a Democrats' power that has made the issue relevant way more than even though the Green Party planted the seed, it's the Democrats being the party that has power that is going to make it happen, if it even does happen.
Right.
Dan made a good point, Ron, that, that the Green Party was important in the sense that it's started a conversation, helped start the conversation, but is basically irrelevant because there's being a single party or single issue party that they really don't have a broad enough appeal. What do you think about that?
I sort of agree with Dan on that, but they have some minimal influence, but they have some. And in a two-party system, it's beneficial to any party to embrace an issue such as climate change or the environment, because sooner or later, those Green Party members are going to look at that Democratic Party that's actually fighting for something that they want, and they probably will go with that party eventually. So I think, yeah, they do play. It may be minimal, but it's playing a role. It's playing part of that political game with the Democrats. Now, like Dan was saying, we believe in the science, most of us. The Republicans will play science off. Which way is the Green Party going to go if you only have two parties? Republican, they're going to go with who does believe in the science of it. And every vote's going to matter, and every vote counts. So, yeah, I can see that they do serve a purpose. But like you said, with Jill Stein and stuff, they pretty much ruined themselves as far as having any credibility when it comes to speaking to the public and getting the point across and attacking the issues. We have a lot of issues to deal with, like he said, healthcare, climate, education. All of these things play a role. Poverty plays a role. But we have to do something climate-wise. I mean, that's a given. We're in this fishbowl, and I'm telling you, there's no taking the lid off of it to let the bad air out. So, yeah, they do play a role. It's minimal, but it plays a role. And I think over time, it's going to play a growing role.
Mm-hmm. The analysis of this two-party system, this analysis is being prompted primarily by the fact that one of the two major parties has been taken over by an authoritarian dictator. Have you ever known this phenomenon occur before in American history? And do you believe that we are at a turning point in the history of our political system, forced on us by this allegiance to the ideology of authoritarian dictatorship? Ron, have you seen anything like this before in your study of American history? And are we at a turning point?
Absolutely. We've seen it. We've seen it with that planned and coordinated January the 6th insurrection. There's no doubt we're at that turning point. Which way we go is going to be decided in the voting booth. But our current situation with states changing voting laws is taking the voter out of that equation. And they're skewering these districts, not through just gerrymandering, but they're making it difficult for the common man to vote. Okay. And I really believe we need to look at a federal law, a federal voting law, the Voting Rights Act. It really needs to be looked at, because if we don't, we're going to lose grip on this our way of voting, and it's coming. And of course, it's heading toward authoritarian government when this takes place. But you got to see it starting at the state level, but it's going to, just like a worm, it's going to wiggle its way into the federal government if we don't wake up. It's definitely, I mean, Nixon tried his hardest to have all the power, but at least we had a Department of Justice that cared and took care of that problem. With Watergate, we're dragging out this insurrection so long, it's almost pathetic, but we have so many other issues on the board that we have to attack, that you can't put all your effort into this insurrection. I understand that, and I get that. We have a country to run outside of putting these people in jail, but they need to get to the bottom of this, and they need to get to the top of who started it all, and we know who did.
Okay, Lisa, the fact that our two-party system has assisted in having the opportunity for an authoritarian dictatorship to take over one of the two major parties. Is that what you see is happening?
Oh, definitely. And I agree with Ron. We have to stop dragging our feet. I mean, I think the latest by Mark Meadows and the release of those emails, we need to get to this. I mean, this needs to be done by June. I mean, at the latest. We want to get to it before the other, the next election. As far as Senate goes, I mean, it's ugly, ugly, ugly. I've never seen anything like that. I was in absolute horror on January 6th when I saw that. When they got, and I mean, to call themselves patriots and the damage they did, it's beyond. It was a sacred institution they went to, and to stop an election. I mean, it was, and then his lack of response. Yes, we got to stop dragging our feet on this. And I think there are actually some charges that I doubt, but we can work on trying to let people know this is not acceptable. Our forefathers are spinning so hard, they're popping up right now because this is not, So this is the first time I've ever seen it. And it just got uglier and uglier. And I mean, I was prepared, most of us were, when we knew when he would lose, if he lost the election, this is exactly what he was going to do. I was a little bit more waiting for martial law, but yeah. So
well, the Q people did say martial law was coming, but
but like Lisa said, if you just look at that, this wasn't some kind of let's have a 1 million man march, peaceful protest. This was a planned and organized and funded effort. I mean, you just don't get 80 buses from trailways to haul people down to Washington, D.C. This was planned and coordinated. You don't get any closer to authoritarian government when you see things like this taking place. And that's what I say. They need to get behind it and get on the ball with this, just like Lisa said, before these elections take place, before June would be ideal. They got to get to the bottom of it. That is authoritarian, what you saw with your eyes. You saw the beginnings of it. You saw a man stand at a microphone and basically order these people to do it and walk away from it and go to a bunker and watch it on television. This guy wanted to be a dictator.
Dan, how scared are you about what has happened and what is about to happen?
Oh, it's terrifying, but it's terrifying for a lot of reasons. Democrats have not delivered on several of the promises that were made during the 2020 election. I'm not going to say that it's 100% Joe Manchin's fault. I'll give the benefit of the doubt that it's 90% Joe Manchin's fault that we have not delivered on those. But if the Democratic Party does not deliver while it controls both houses of Congress and the White House, then it does not deserve to win in 2022 and 2024. Now, that being said, the alternative is so much worse, and everything good about the country will go out the window if the Republicans control those two branches of government again, especially with the kind of crazed lunatic that is in charge of that party now. Like the Marjorie Taylor's Greens and the Matt Gaetzes are, these are not serious people to be taken seriously. They are 100% performative, but they're also in charge. And if they are allowed to have more authority, they're going to use it without knowing what it means or what it does. Like I don't want a plumber performing surgery on me, and that's what's going to happen. So yeah, it's terrifying. And I think that everybody who calls to unite, well, the last time we united was after 9/11. And the way that we united was for everyone to become conservative. That is what happened after 9/11. And calls to unite for things like, hey, maybe let's not kill our old people with this easily transmissible disease. Like, oh no, that's tyranny. So, but let's go bomb some brown people. We're all in on that.
Yeah, it was like we were united against Islamic terrorism. And that's basically, all we were united with against. There have been a couple of recent presidential elections where candidates not affiliated with either major party had a significant effect on the outcome. The first was when Ross Perot took enough votes from H.W. Bush to give the presidency to Bill Clinton in 1992. 2 elections later, Ralph Nader took enough votes from Al Gore in Florida to allow the Rehnquist court to declare W the winner in 2000. Apparently, and Dan mentioned this earlier, Senator Bernie Sanders took note because he ran twice for the Democratic nomination, even though he's declared an independent. What is your overall view of third party or independent presidential candidates in terms of the benefit they provide to our democracy? Did it help us when Ralph Nader ran in the year 2000? Ron, what do you think?
No, I don't think it helps us. Like I said, you see a lot. Your statement, your question, where the votes were taken by third party candidates that might have went the other way caused the problem. But what are you going to do? I mean, if you have a third party, you have a third party. Our electoral system is in trouble. As far as I'm concerned, I think the electoral college is antiquated. I just think it's antiquated.
That's so nice of you to say it like that.
I think it was just a total mistake. That's what I look at it as a mistake.
And in my opinion, other nations do it and it works. And I believe that the popular vote is the way to go. Because the electoral college it's just too antiquated. It doesn't fit today. It doesn't fit for today. So third party candidates, there's real no answer to that. They run, people vote for them that may have voted for a Democrat, for example, or a Republican, but those votes are lost. And so that does make it a tough question. I mean, you don't want to say you can't have a third party. You're going to a dictatorship. But what I'm saying is it doesn't work effectively as far as the vote system goes, but neither does the electoral college. So,
I think what you're saying is depending on where your ideology lay is whether it's going to help you or not. For instance, if you were a liberal, Ralph Nader running hurt. If you were a conservative, right, Ross Perot running hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, what do you think about that? How it benefits us to have major third-party candidates like Nader and Ross Perot running?
Well, I totally agree with Ron about the electoral college, and I, like you and I talked about earlier. I mean, when I was a kid, I was always in amazement at how other countries had like 20 candidates or 14 candidates, and I just thought, that's awesome because you had, and here, like it takes away from the two. That's it. It's really going to be one or the other, and that's sad. I ideology. Oh, I can't even talk today. In a larger view, it was kind of interesting to see the type of person that voted, that was leaning towards Ross Perot, like in a kind of historical sense, looking backwards, hindsight, of who were the people looking at Ralph Nader, and I'm sure, the bigger campaign said, let's do the psychology behind this and what can we do to grab those constituents to vote for us, next time.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting to see. It was like, even if I didn't agree, it was like a breath of fresh air in a way of us having these stagnant two parties. And I would love to see, but like you said, if we have the electoral, I don't know why I can't say it today, electoral college, we're kind of stuck right now. But I loved, and I thought it was kind of neat, and honestly, that those third party candidates, fourth and fifth, it was like the debates that made them really interesting. And just, I mean, there's so many views out there. It's sad we're stuck having to pick one or two, or one out of the two, excuse me, I don't fit either one sometimes. So it's interesting.
Dan, major third party candidates running into three candidate race, good or bad?
It's good if you are on the party if your ideology is aligned with one of those three candidates and against the other two, you are in a great spot. If you if you have to actually make a choice between one of those three ideologies, between two of them, then you're screwed, because you watch what happens. And we understand how to weaponize that, because Donald Trump encouraged Bernie Sanders to run as an independent in 2016 when he thought he was going to lose, and Bernie very publicly said, I'm not taking that bait. Then Donald Trump tried to Kanye West actually thought he was running. I'm not going to
talking about serious third party candidates.
He filed paperwork, but Republicans tried to help him get on the ballot, thinking that would take votes, Black African American votes, away from Joe Biden, and therefore help Donald Trump win. So we have a very cynical understanding of it. I mean, and I mentioned my contempt for both of them before. I can't imagine a world in which Jill Stein had to stand on a stage with Hillary Clinton and be treated like an equal. Like that is simply not a thing. But I want us to have more political discourse, and I want us to have more candidates and more options. But as long as we have anything other than a national popular vote to determine national elections, it's not a feasible thing. I also think, looking at these major third party candidates, like, if I recall correctly, and I was 11, so bear with me, pretty sure Perot was a straight up independent, whereas Nader was running as a member of the Green Party. They're not their actual nominee. I have a little more respect for Perot in that regard, because the third party parties, the Libertarians, the Greens, the Constitutionalists, the Independent Reform, they always like to run. They like to run for president, but they don't necessarily run for mayor. They don't run for House rep. They don't run for senator. They don't run for governor. And even, I completely forget his name, that guy who looked like he got kicked in the head by a pony in 2016 for the Libertarians, the one who had been a governor but won his governorship and served it as a Republican. They can't hold office. They can't get office as their true ideal, so they have to run as other things. You can't build it from the top down. You have to build it from the bottom up. So no, we will never see a Green or Libertarian or Independent Reform or Constitution Party president. it's not going to happen until they build up some infrastructure and have some names out there. Like, I think that we're more likely to see the Democratic Socialists break off from the mainstream Democratic Party than we are ever to see a Green Party, anything that is well known nationally. I don't think we'll ever see a governor. I don't think we'll ever see a senator, congressman. Like, give me a dog catcher, give me something, prove you can win some election, and maybe I'll take you seriously. But until you can, no.
Yeah, it's been 156 years since Republicans and Democrats have been the only game in town.